A gunshot cracked through the night before anyone saw the shooter. The glass panels of the rooftop terrace trembled as guests screamed and scattered, champagne flutes shattering across the marble floor. Alexander Drake didn't flinch. He never did. His security team swarmed instantly, pushing him toward the exit, but his voice cut through the chaos, low, cold, steady. "Find the shooter. Don't touch me." The billionaire moved like a man used to danger, not charity galas. New York City glittered below them, but he was focused only on the balcony where the bullet had landed, inches from a young waiter's head. His jaw tightened. Another attempt? Another warning? He didn't care. Fear was a language he'd forgotten long ago. He turned to leave, and collided with someone. She stumbled forward, breathless, gripping a tray she refused to drop despite the chaos. A woman in a fitted black dress, tight curls bouncing against her cheekbones, eyes fierce with determination instead of fear. She looked like the kind of woman who had survived far worse than a stray bullet. "Move," Alexander said, clipped and icy. She didn't. "You're walking straight into the crowd. Bad idea. Or do billionaires believe bullets avoid money?" His eyes narrowed. No one spoke to him like that. No one challenged him. Yet she had, without hesitation, without blinking. She stepped aside only after assessing him with a quick, sharp glance, efficient, unbothered, uninterested in who he was. Her fearlessness irritated him, and fascinated him. Moments later, his team forced him down the emergency staircase. The woman disappeared behind metal doors, swallowed by frantic guests. He should have forgotten her by the time he reached his armored car. He didn't. At the bottom of those stairs, the night seemed too quiet. New York City was noisy, always, but Alexander felt a strange echo inside him, something unsettled. Something traced back to the woman with the fire in her eyes. He shook it off, slid into the car, and gave a single order: "Take me back to the hotel. And shut down every rumor before it starts." He didn't think about her again, until 3 hours later, when the board demanded he stay for the remainder of the charity event to maintain appearances. So he returned, irritated, bored, irritated again. Wealth made him untouchable, power made him lonely, expectations made him cold. And then she walked in. The same woman he bumped into earlier. Her dress was slightly torn from the chaos. Her lipstick smudged. But she didn't look shaken. She looked like someone who had climbed out of a storm, dusted herself off, and dared the world to try again. She passed him without a glance, carrying a box of donation packets. A volunteer. Not staff. Not security. A volunteer who treated him like any man, not the billionaire everyone bowed to. Alexander watched her move around the room, talking to guests with a warm voice and bright smile. A smile she hadn't offered him. He didn't deserve it, but irritation sparked anyway. He approached her intentionally this time. "You didn't look this calm when you almost ran me over earlier," he said. She didn't turn around. "I didn't run you over. I saved your expensive suit from a worse stain." He blinked. "You call spilling wine a favor?" She faced him fully now, eyebrows raised. "Better than blood, isn't it?" He hated the way she talked to him. He loved the way she talked to him. It felt like banter with someone who wasn't impressed by his world, his name, or his power. "What's your name?" he asked. "Imani," she said. "No last name." She offered him nothing else. He stepped closer. "Imani, you're—" A loud crash interrupted them, a server tripped, sending trays cascading to the floor. Alexander instinctively braced Imani with a hand on her waist, pulling her into him to shield her from falling glass. The touch was electric. Not the soft spark of attraction. Not simple chemistry. Something deeper. Something he didn't have the vocabulary for. Imani stiffened, looking up at him. Her eyes told stories, ones she wouldn't willingly share with a man like him. Stories of a life earned, not handed. Heat rose between them, sharp enough that she stepped back as if burned. "You're safe," he said. "I was safe before you touched me." He should have left her alone. He didn't. Hours later, the gala dimmed into softer lights and slower music. Alexander remained only because the board insisted. He sat at a corner table, pretending to listen to donors, but his gaze kept drifting to Imani. When she slipped out onto the balcony alone, he followed. She leaned against the railing, looking over the city. Her skin glowed under the moonlight, soft and golden. Her posture was strong, unbent. When she sensed him, she didn't turn, didn't acknowledge him. "You followed me," she said. "You walked out here first." She laughed softly. "You're terrible at pretending." He stepped beside her, keeping just enough space to respect the boundary she fought to keep. They watched the city lights dance. "Do you volunteer at events often?" he asked quietly. "Do you always interrogate strangers?" she countered. He smirked. "Only the interesting ones." She finally looked at him then. Really looked. And he felt uncomfortably seen. She didn't see the billionaire. She saw the man behind the walls, and she didn't flinch. "That's the line?" "You're interesting," she said. "Does that usually work?" "No," he admitted. "Good. Because it's lazy." Her honesty caught him harder than the chaos earlier. She wasn't flirting. She wasn't playing. She wasn't impressed. She was real, something his world rarely offered. A breeze swept past, carrying her perfume, soft, warm, not expensive, but unforgettable. He inhaled without meaning to. "I don't do distractions," he said. "And I don't do cold men. So we're balanced." Silence settled, tension heavy, unspoken, pulling them closer. He should have left. She should have stepped away. Neither did. "Why aren't you afraid of me?" he murmured. "Should I be?" "I'm not," he exhaled. "Easy." She smiled, not mocking, just understanding. "I figured." The distance between them shrank with every word. His pulse, usually steady, controlled, felt unsteady. Imani leaned slightly on the railing, and he couldn't stop himself. He reached for her chin, gently. She didn't pull back. "Alexander." He kissed her like the world was ending. Like he'd never tasted honesty before. Like he didn't want to think, for once in his controlled life, just feel. She kissed him back with equal fire, hesitant at first, then surrendering to whatever this was. The tension broke open between them, sharp and consuming. When she finally stepped away, breathless, she whispered, "This is a bad idea." "I know." "Then stop." "I can't." Her eyes widened, and for the first time, Alexander Drake felt something dangerously close to losing control. And he didn't want it to stop. Imani didn't wait for him to say anything else. She stepped back toward the door, the pulse at her neck still racing, her breath still uneven, her defenses climbing back up like armor snapping into place. "This was a mistake," she whispered, more to herself than to him. Alexander followed her inside, but not close enough to touch her again. Not close enough to give in to the urge pulling him forward. She walked fast, weaving through the thinning crowd, heading toward the staff hallway. He kept pace, silent, watching the way she refused to look back at him. When she reached the quiet service corridor, he finally spoke. "Imani." She stopped instantly but didn't turn around. Her voice came low, tired, conflicted. "Don't. Please. Tell me you didn't feel that," he said. "I didn't feel anything," she lied. He exhaled sharply. "You're a terrible liar." "Maybe. She swallowed. But I can survive my own lies. I can't survive yours. He didn't know what that meant. He didn't like that he didn't know. Alexander Drake understood numbers, contracts, leverage. He did not understand this woman who could destroy him with one glance. Imani, he said again, stepping closer. Stay. She shook her head. I can't do this with you. Why? She turned then, finally facing him. Her eyes weren't angry. They were sad. Deeply sad. Because you're not looking for the same thing I am. And what is it you think I'm looking for? His voice was calm, but inside something twisted. Escape, she whispered. A distraction. Something to feel for one night and forget in the morning. His jaw locked. She was too accurate. Too close. And what are you looking for? He asked. Her eyes dropped to the floor. Something real. Something that doesn't disappear. Silence expanded between them. I don't disappear, he said quietly. She gave a weak, humorless laugh. Alexander, disappearing is the one thing men like you are good at. She left before he could respond, walking down the hallway and out of sight. He stayed rooted to the spot far longer than he intended, feeling a strange ache he didn't want to name. Disappointment? No. That was a foreign concept. Frustration? That felt safer. He clung to it. But even frustration wasn't enough to chase her from his mind. He should have walked back to the gala. He should have left. He should have returned to the perfect, emotionless silence of his penthouse. Instead, 20 minutes later, he found himself pushing open the door to the hotel's private lounge, only to see Imani already there. She wasn't supposed to be. She wasn't even a guest. But she sat at the bar with a glass of water, shoulders slumped, lost in thought. She looked exhausted. Like reality had finally caught up to the strong facade she wore outside. Alexander walked toward her before he could stop himself. Imani sensed him instantly, her body tensing. Seriously, she muttered. Do you follow everyone like this? No, he said. Just you. Not helping, she breathed. He took the seat beside her. Not close, but close enough. The bartender approached, but Alexander waved him away. Imani kept her eyes on the counter. Why are you here? He hesitated. I don't know. That's the problem. He studied her profile, the frustration, the vulnerability peeking through. Her hands trembled slightly as she lifted the glass. She tried to hide it by shifting her grip. You're shaking, he said softly. Don't analyze me. I'm not. You are. It's who you are. Always calculating. Always judging. She exhaled slowly. You can't turn me into a puzzle to solve. He absorbed that quietly. Then, she surprised him. I'm not like the women you're used to, she said, voice barely above a whisper. And I never will be. I don't want whatever this is. You don't even know what this is, he said. I know enough. He leaned slightly closer. Then explain it to me. She went still. When she spoke, her words cut sharply, honestly. You're lonely, Alexander. And I'm convenient. That hit harder than a punch. Her eyes finally met his. I'm not going to be your bandage. Your distraction. Your therapy. I didn't ask for any of that, he replied. Maybe not out loud. She brushed a curl behind her ear, avoiding his gaze. But I know men who carry wounds like yours. You want warmth, but only for a night. You want connection, but only if it hurts no one, not even yourself. He stared at her. And you think that's all I am? I think, she said, you're not ready for someone who wants to stay. He didn't respond. He couldn't. Imani slid off the bar stool. "Good night, Alexander." He reached for her wrist, but stopped himself. His hand hovered inches from her skin before he pulled it back. Imani saw the hesitation. For a moment, her expression softened, like she almost regretted walking away. Almost. She left the lounge without looking back. Alexander stayed there long after she was gone, wrestling with emotions he had no name for. Emotions he didn't want, didn't ask for, but couldn't shake. An hour passed. 2. Eventually, he stood, walked toward the elevators, and stepped inside. His suite was on the top floor, isolated and quiet. Just the way he usually liked it. But when he reached his door, silence felt suffocating. He paused in the hallway, his hand on the doorknob, breathing slowly. A strange, unwelcome truth wrapped around him. He wanted her. Not for the night. Not for distraction. Not for loneliness. He wanted Imani. And the realization terrified him. He stepped inside, and froze. Imani stood in his living room, dripping rainwater onto the carpet, her dress soaked, curls plastered to her cheeks. She looked like she'd run the whole way from the hotel lounge. "What?" he started, stunned. But she cut him off. "Don't speak," she gasped, shivering. "Just, don't speak." He approached her cautiously. "Imani, what happened?" "I almost left," she whispered. "I tried to. But I couldn't. I don't know why. I don't understand it. I don't even like this. Or you. Or how you make me feel. I hate it." He blinked. "You hate it?" She stepped closer, breath trembling. "Yes. Because I don't lose control. Ever. But with you, I." Her voice cut off as another shiver ran through her. He removed his coat slowly, gently, without touching her skin. "You're freezing." "Don't pretend you care," she said. "I'm not pretending." Imani's eyes lifted to his, fear, desire, conflict all storming inside her. "Alexander, tell me this isn't a mistake." He held her gaze, every instinct screaming to lie, to protect himself, to stay cold. But he said the truth instead. "It is a mistake," he whispered. She stepped back as if slapped. "But," he continued softly, stepping forward, "it's the only mistake I want to make." Her breath hitched. The distance between them vanished. And when he kissed her, it wasn't impulsive, not like the first time. It was slow. Deep. Intentional. Dangerous. The kind of kiss that rewires a person. The kind of kiss that ruins their ability to walk away. When they finally broke apart, her voice trembled. "We shouldn't be doing this." "I know," he murmured, pulling her closer. "But we are." What happened next wasn't rushed or reckless. It was raw, messy, human. Two people who didn't believe in connection. Giving in to the one person who made them feel alive. And neither of them knew they were about to change each other forever. Their breath mingled in the quiet room, the rain tapping against the windows like restless fingers urging them forward. But Alexander didn't rush her. Not this time. He searched her face, every trembling breath, every flicker of doubt, like he was memorizing something he had no right to keep. Imani finally broke the silence. "If we do this, you don't get to act like it meant nothing tomorrow." He stared at her, tension tightening his jaw. "I don't do meaningless." She shook her head. "You do avoidance. You do distance. You do disappearing acts. Not with you. You say that now. Imani." His voice dipped low. "Dangerous. Honest. Stop assuming who I am, and let me show you." She hesitated, caught between fear and the gravity pulling her toward him. And the gravity won. He touched her cheek, gentle, careful, like she might break. It startled her. Men like him weren't gentle. Men like him didn't hesitate. But Alexander did. It made her chest ache in ways she didn't want to feel. He stepped back suddenly. "You're soaked. You need to change." Her laugh was small, exhausted. "What do you expect me to wear? I didn't exactly pack a suitcase for this emotional meltdown." He didn't smile, but something warm flickered in his eyes. He walked to the bedroom, returning with a long black robe, expensive, heavy, soft. "Here," he said. She took it, brushing past him as she made her way to the bathroom. When she shut the door, she leaned against it, sliding down slowly until she sat on the cold tile. "What am I doing?" she whispered to herself. "God, what am I doing?" Her reflection stared back at her from the mirror. Eyes too raw. Heart too loud. She hated this feeling. Hated that he triggered every insecurity she tried to bury. Hated that her walls, normally steel, felt like wet paper around him. She put on the robe, tying it tightly, trying to steady her breathing before she stepped out. Alexander was standing by the window, his back to her, staring out at the storm. The city lights cast long reflections across the glass, neon blues and silvers dancing along the floor. He looked like a man preparing for a battle he didn't know how to fight. When he turned to face her, the robe swallowed her frame, her curls damp but free around her shoulders. She looked soft. Breakable. And that terrified him more than anything. "Imani," he said quietly, "come here." A warning bell rang in her head. "Walk away, Imani, walk away before you fall," but her feet moved anyway, slow and hesitant, stopping just a few inches from him. He reached for her, but this time he didn't touch. His hands hovered at her waist, his restraint as powerful as any kiss. "Do you want me to stop?" he asked. It was the simplest question. But it hit her harder than anything else tonight. No man had ever asked her that. "No," she whispered. He exhaled, tension unraveling from his shoulders. He let his hands finally settle on her waist, warm, steady, grounding. "You came back," he said softly. "I know," she breathed. "I shouldn't have. But you did." Her throat tightened. "Don't make this mean more than it does." "You're the one shaking," he murmured. She glared up at him, embarrassed. "Because this is too much. For me too." That surprised her. The admission. The vulnerability slipping through the cracks. Her voice lowered. "You don't do too much." "I do now." For a moment, neither spoke. The storm outside echoed everything they didn't say. Then his fingers slid under her chin, gently lifting her face to his. "Imani, whatever this is, we're already in it." She closed her eyes. "That's what scares me." He kissed her again, slow, deep, careful in a way that contradicted every rumor, every headline, every whisper about Alexander Drake. His lips traced the tension in her jaw, the corner of her mouth, the pulse fluttering wildly in her throat. She let her hands slide up his chest, feeling the steady rise and fall of his breaths. He guided her backward, not forceful, just leading, giving her every chance to walk away. But she didn't. When her back reached the wall, she gasped. He froze immediately. "Imani." "It's okay," she breathed, pulling him closer by his shirt. "Don't stop." He pressed his forehead to hers, his voice ragged. "You have no idea what you're doing to me." She smiled weakly. "I think I do." They stood there for a moment, two storms colliding, two people fighting feelings they didn't understand but couldn't resist. Then he lifted her gently, carrying her toward the bedroom. Not rushed. Not reckless. Not lust without thought. Something deeper. Something dangerous. Something neither of them would be able to untangle from. Hours passed like minutes. The storm outside softened, but inside the room, inside the space where their hearts and fears collided, everything only grew louder. When it was over, neither spoke. Imani lay with her head on his chest, his arm draped across her back, their breaths sinking slowly in the dark. A part of her wanted to get up, to run, to break the spell before morning could shatter it. But she didn't move. And Alexander didn't sleep. He stared at the ceiling, his fingers absent-mindedly tracing slow, steady circles along her spine. He didn't know why he was touching her. He didn't know why he hadn't moved her aside. He didn't know why he felt calm in a way he hadn't felt in years. He didn't know why he was afraid of the sun rising. Imani's voice came quietly, unexpectedly. "Don't say anything." "I wasn't going to," he murmured. "Good." She swallowed. "Because I don't know how to explain any of this." Neither did he. Neither wanted to. And neither realized that tonight, their mistake, their collision, their unraveling, was going to be the beginning of everything they were both terrified of. And everything they needed. Imani woke to warmth she didn't recognize. A solid chest. A steady heartbeat. An arm still wrapped around her waist like he hadn't moved once all night. Her eyes shot open instantly. She wasn't supposed to still be here. Panic surged through her chest as she tried to untangle herself gently, carefully, but the moment she shifted, Alexander's fingers tightened at her hip, pulling her back against him without even waking fully. He buried his face into her shoulder, breathing her in like he'd been waiting for this moment for years. Imani froze. This wasn't supposed to happen. Men didn't hold her afterward. Men didn't cling. Men didn't. Alexander wasn't men. He stirred, voice rough from sleep. "Where are you going?" Her breath stuttered. "Home." His arm didn't loosen. "It's 6 in the morning." "Exactly." He opened his eyes, slow and focused, like she was the first thing he wanted to see. That made her chest ache in ways she immediately rejected. "Imani," he said softly, "stay." "No," she pushed lightly at his arm. "Last night was. I don't know what it was. But we're not doing the morning after thing." "Why not?" "Because it complicates everything. It's already complicated." "Only if you make it," she whispered. He sat up, leaning on one elbow. The silk sheets fell around his waist, the early morning light painting gold across his chest. He looked dangerously human like this, messy hair, soft expression, no armor. It made him more dangerous than the cold billionaire she met hours ago. "Did I do something wrong?" he asked quietly. She blinked. "What?" "You're acting like you regret last night." Her heart twisted painfully. "I don't regret it." "Then stay." "Alexander." "Just stay," he repeated, softer this time. "For an hour. For breakfast. For 5 minutes. I don't care. Just don't run." Hearing him ask anyone not to run felt unreal. Imani sat on the edge of the bed, hugging the robe around herself. Her voice dropped. "You're acting like this is more than it is. What if it is?" She didn't turn. She couldn't. "Then you're lying to yourself." He got out of bed and walked toward her. She felt him stop behind her, the heat of his body warming the back of her neck. "I don't lie," he said quietly. "You lie to yourself all the time," she whispered, standing up. He grabbed her wrist, not harshly, not claiming, just enough to make her pause. When she faced him, his expression was unguarded in a way that almost broke her. "Tell me you felt nothing," he said. Silence stretched. She wanted to. God, she wanted to. She wanted to protect herself, keep her walls, keep her heart out of reach. But she couldn't lie with him staring at her like that. She swallowed. I felt something. His fingers relaxed slightly, hope flickering in his eyes. But, she breathed, something isn't enough, Alexander. Not with someone like you. His chest rose, slow. Controlled. Someone like me? You don't build your life around people. You build it around control. You freeze before you feel. And I can't get attached to someone who will disappear the second things get messy. I'm not going anywhere. You don't know that. He stepped closer. Then tell me what you want. Tell me what you need from me. Tell me what I have to do. Her throat tightened painfully. That's the problem. You're asking now. But in a week? In a month? You'll forget why you asked. He reached up, brushing her cheek with the back of his fingers. Let me try. She closed her eyes. You're going to break me. No, he whispered. I think you're going to break me. The honesty of it shattered her. She pulled away abruptly, stepping back. I need to leave. He didn't stop her this time. He simply watched, tension in every line of his body, as she grabbed her dress and heels from the floor. Imani, he said once more, quieter than ever, please. The word hit her like cold water. Men like him didn't say please. Not for anything. It made her hands tremble. Made her chest feel like it was caving in. But she still turned away. She reached the door, opened it, and stepped into the hallway without looking back. The moment she left, something inside Alexander cracked, subtle, silent, but deep enough to scare him. He stood in the doorway long after she disappeared around the corner, the robe belt still in his hand, her scent still clinging to his skin. For the first time in years, he felt helpless. Not because she left, but because he wanted her to stay. Imani didn't breathe until she reached the street. Morning traffic hummed around her, cold wind brushing against her wet curls. She hugged her dress to her chest and kept walking, fast, almost running. She hated how heavy her heart felt. She hated that she cared. She hated that she'd seen something real in his eyes, something terrified, something raw. She got into the first cab she could find, sliding into the back seat with shaking hands. Where to? The driver asked. She didn't answer right away. Because she didn't know. The driver glanced at her in the mirror, concern creasing his brow. Miss? Are you okay? She forced her voice to work. Just drive. Please. He nodded and pulled into traffic. As the city blurred past the window, Imani pressed her hand to her lips, remembering the feel of him. His voice. The way he held her like he was afraid she'd vanish. She whispered to herself, broken and scared. Why him? Why the one man who had everything except the one thing she needed, emotional safety? Why the one heart colder than the life she fought to escape? Why the one man she couldn't afford to want? Her phone buzzed in her hand. A message. From an unknown number. But she didn't need to guess. Imani. Tell me you got home safe. Her chest clenched. She typed nothing. Locked her phone. Stared out the window with tears burning her eyes. She had no idea that the next time she saw him, everything would be worse. And everything would be impossible to walk away from. Imani didn't read the message again, she couldn't. Her chest hurt too much, her pulse jumped every time she thought of him, and the cab felt too small to hold everything she was trying not to feel. She needed distance. Space. Silence. But Alexander Drake was not a man who allowed silence, not when something mattered. And she mattered to him in a way he didn't understand, and didn't know how to stop. 3 days later. Imani hadn't slept properly since that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she felt the warmth of his hands at her waist, the soft press of his forehead against hers, the fragile vulnerability he'd shown in a whisper. She hated how much she missed it. She was halfway through stacking boxes in the volunteer center when her supervisor poked her head in. "Imani? There's someone asking for you outside." She froze. "Someone? Tall. Expensive. Radiates danger. That kind of someone." Her heart dropped. No. No, he wouldn't. But when she walked out into the front lobby, her breath caught. Alexander was there. In dark slacks, rolled-up sleeves, rain-damp hair, and an expression that made the room feel smaller, quieter, warmer. Volunteers stared. Some whispered. Some simply froze. Men like him didn't walk into places like this. Imani felt her stomach twist. "Alexander, what are you doing here?" He didn't greet her. Didn't smile. Didn't ease the tension. He simply said, voice low, barely contained. "You disappeared. I told you I needed space. I gave you space. 3 days is not space." "I haven't slept in 3 days," he shot back. Her chest tightened. But she shook her head. "That's not my responsibility." He stepped closer. "No. It's mine." She blinked. "Yours?" "Yes." His jaw tightened. "Because I pushed you away without meaning to. Because I froze. Because you were right." She stiffened. "About what?" "That I disappear when things get real." Silence dropped like a weight. Other volunteers cleared out slowly, leaving them standing alone in the center of the room, hurt thick in the air. Alexander's voice softened dangerously. "I'm not disappearing this time." Imani folded her arms. "And what am I supposed to do with that? Pretend everything is simple now? Pretend that one night suddenly makes us—" "One night," he interrupted, "ruined me." Her breath stilled. "I've been in boardrooms with men twice my height," he continued quietly, "rooms where one mistake cost billions. But nothing has terrified me like waking up and realizing you were gone. Alexander. I'm not asking for forever. I'm not asking you to trust me blindly. I'm asking for," he exhaled shakily, "a chance. A real chance. No running. No disappearing. No hiding behind excuses." "And what if you change your mind?" she whispered. "Then I'll tell you to your face. I'll never leave you wondering." Her eyes stung. "And what if I fall for you?" she asked, voice cracking. "Then I'll catch you." She inhaled sharply. "Don't say things you can't keep." The corners of his eyes softened. "Then let me prove I can." Imani took a step back, too overwhelmed, too raw, but Alexander followed, stopping only when she held up a trembling hand. "I don't know if I can handle you," she whispered. "You're intense. You're overwhelming. You feel like falling into the deep end without knowing how to swim." "Then I'll drown with you," he murmured, stepping closer. That broke her. Her eyes squeezed shut as she breathed out, pained, "Alexander, don't do this to me. I'm doing this for me." She opened her eyes, and saw it. The fear. The hope. The sincerity he didn't know how to hide. And for the first time, she saw not the billionaire, but the man who didn't know how to love without fighting it. They stood there, inches apart, the world muted around them. Then the doors slammed open. A breathless security guard rushed in, eyes wide, voice sharp. "Sir, your car has been shot at. The same shooter from the gala. We need to evacuate you now." Imani froze. Alexander turned instantly, all softness gone, all warmth stripped, danger slicing through his posture like a blade. But he didn't look at the guard. He looked at her. "Imani," he said, voice low, urgent, "come with me." "No," she whispered, pulse racing. "Alexander, this is your world. This is your danger. And you're already in it." Her breath stilled. The guard spoke again. "Sir, we need to leave, now." Alexander extended his hand. Not demanding. Not commanding. Not entitled. Asking. "Come with me," he said again, steady and slow. "Not because you're in danger. Not because I need to protect you. Come with me because I don't want to do this without you." She stared at his hand. Everything inside her warred, fear, desire, longing, logic, love she didn't want to admit. Her fingers twitched. Her chest tightened. And then she took his hand. Not because it was safe. Because it wasn't. Because it was real. Because it terrified her. Because she wanted him anyway. Alexander's exhale shook with something raw, something like relief, something like surrender. He pulled her gently into his side. "Whatever happens," he murmured, "I'm not letting you disappear again." Imani whispered back, trembling but sure, "Then don't disappear on me either." His jaw tightened. "Never." They walked out together as security surrounded them, chaos erupting outside, danger closing in, but their hands stayed locked, refusing to let go. And somewhere between fear and adrenaline, something new began. Something neither of them could stop. Something neither of them would survive unchanged. If this story pulled you in, if you felt even a little of Benjamin's pain, Cassidy's heartbreak, or the weight of the second chance he's fighting for, like, comment, share and hit the subscribe button. I promise you, there are more stories coming that will break you, heal you, and keep you up at night wanting more. Until next time, this is StoryVerse TV.